Okay, this will be the last video on radioactivity, and in this video, we'll be covering on some of the uses and hazards of radioactivity. Okay, we will start off with the applications or the uses of radioactivity first. Radioactivity uses is classified under three categories. The first one is its ability to cause damage to cells. The second one, actually, the ability to cause damage to cells is also linked to its penetrating ability and its ionizing effects. Because of its ionizing effect, therefore, it is able to cause damage to cells. So actually, I could combine these two categories together. And the other one is we are able to use it to do some calculation like carbon dating to know how many years have passed because of the half-life calculations. Okay, so let's move into users related to its properties like its ionizing effect, its penetrative power, as well as its ability to cause damage to cells. Okay, you realize for such cases, in medical industries, we rarely use alpha particles because alpha particles is way too ionizing and alpha particles cannot pass through the skin. So it's a little bit useless. In fact, we use a lot of gamma rays because the gamma rays is able to penetrate through all body parts. And we can detect gamma rays using something called a gamma camera. So what happens is usually a small amount of radioactive isotopes that emits gamma rays or beta particles will be ingested or injected into the body, depending on which part do you want to observe. Okay, so it's injected or ingested, you eat it into the body, and then in the process, in the process of decaying, it gives off gamma rays. And these gamma rays can be tracked using something called gamma camera. So it allows you to take photos of the entire path of how the uh, radioactive substance is moving inside the body. It also allows you to take images of the entire internal organs inside the body. So you can read from here. Okay, I am going to highlight. Okay, so the first one is technetium-99. It's often used for the detection of tumor. I use it to take photos of my internal organs as well. So you take a small amount into the body, and then gamma rays are emitted, and it allows images of the internal organs to be taken using a gamma camera. Okay, and then usually it has a very short half-life of a few hours, so it doesn't stay in the body for a very long period of time. Maybe after 2 days, the entire radioactive substance will have been removed from the body because all have already been decayed due to the short half-life. Okay. Next one is iodine 131. It's often used in the treatment of thyroid disorder. So again, it is being ingested into the body, just a small amount will do, because beta particles are quite ionizing. It's in fact more ionizing than gamma rays. It's able to destroy thyroid cells and the cancerous cells. Again, it has a very short half-life of about 8 days, so it doesn't remain in the body for too long a period of time. Okay, so you just ingest a small amount, it kills all the cancer cells. Okay, and then just take note that you do not need to know the names of the radioactive isotopes. It will be given in the context during the exam because there's not only technetium, iodine 131, and in this case, cobalt-60. There are many, many other radioactive isotopes. Okay, usually in exams, they might give you a table, then they may give you some properties of the different radioactive isotopes, and then they ask you, oh, which one is suitable for certain medical users. Then you must be able to explain to me, oh, this one is suitable because it has a short half-life, so it won't stay in the body for a long period of time. This one is suitable because it's quite penetrative, it's quite ionizing, so it is able to kill the cancer cells, etc. Okay, and then the last one is over here on this page is gamma rays from cobalt-60. Is often used to destroy brain tumor. Again, but for this is a rare case. Most of the time we try to use isotopes that has a very short half-life, so it doesn't harms a lot of other body cells in this case, but cobalt-60 is different. It has a long half-life. So for things with a very long half-life, we only inject a small amount because even a small amount, it takes a very, very long time to be completely decayed. Okay, we'll move on to the next one. Okay, then after that, we also use gamma rays uh, to kill micro, microbes, so that the food is safe for consumption and can last longer. And then usually have a long half-life. Usually we choose slightly longer half-life than those in the body. Okay, so it takes a long time for the isotopes to decay. So only a small quantity is needed over a long period of time. So you just use a small amount of gamma rays is sufficient to last the food for quite a long period of time. The same things for syringe and all the medical equipments. They are also exposed to gamma rays, again to kill all the microbes, okay, and keep it sterile. Again, the same is used slightly longer half-life of a few years. Okay, next. Okay, besides all this, we also have let me just move on to the one that is related to its penetrating ability and ionizing effect first. Okay, one of it very commonly used is in the smoke detectors. So this one we make use of alpha particles instead of beta and gamma. Because alpha particles has the strongest ionizing effect. I need to make use of the ionizing effect. So in smoke particles, right, there is alpha particles being emitted because they have this radioactive isotopes in it. So it constantly emits alpha particles. And alpha particles being a very strong ionizing agent, it is able to ionize the air because of its high ionizing ability. It ionizes the air. So what happens is it will create a lot of ions in the air. So in the smoke detector, there is air going through it, and then there is a lot of ions. And these ions, ions are charged particles. These ions will be able to create a current flow in the detector because of the moving charges. Okay, so I have current flow. But what happens is when smoke enters the detector, okay, the smoke will absorb the radiation. So it will absorb these alpha particles. It will block these smoke particles. It will block these alpha particles. So the smoke blocks the alpha particles. It cannot absorb by the alpha particles. And the alpha particles will not be able to ionize the air. So without the air being ionized, without moving charges, it's unable to conduct current anymore. So the flow of current will be disrupted, and that is what triggers the detector alarm. So once the alarm detects that there is no current flowing, means there is something blocking the alpha particles from penetrating, from ionizing the air. Okay, smoke particles are able to absorb the alpha particles because you remember alpha particles has very low penetrative power. It's being absorbed by a few cm of air or just a thin piece of paper. So if you have smoke particles, it cannot absorb even faster. Okay, and then next, we have beta particles or gamma rays, more penetrative than alpha particles. So I use it to measure thickness of materials or to check for cracks along underground pipes or metal sheets and etc. So you have beta particles or gamma rays from a radioactive source is being directed at a material, and then you have a detector that is placed on the other side of it. Okay, so if the thickness is of a suitable thickness, then you have a suitable amount of count rate. That means only a certain amount of beta and gamma particles can pass through that thickness. But if it's too thick, then the amount, so is, let me highlight, too thick, amount of radiation will be low, and vice versa. So you can adjust the thickness, or it can also be used to check for cracks, because if you suddenly have a high count rate, that means that there is a crack somewhere along there. So instead of digging out the entire underground pipe, they can just inject some radioactive materials into the water pipes, and then try to detect the amount of radioactive decay or count rate at different sections along the pipe. As long as there's a higher count rate, it means that there is a leakage of radioactive substance. That means there is a crack in the pipes downstairs. Okay, so alpha particles are not suitable because they will be absorbed by the materials easily. Okay, so this kind we usually use beta and gamma rays instead. Okay, then I go back to the last one, which is how do we use half-life to determine to make use of radioactive decay for applications usually. So in this case, you have uranium-238, but sometimes we also use carbon. So if you have heard before of carbon dating, so it makes use of half-life. So usually for such things, we use radioactive isotopes that has a very, very long half-life. So in this case, they use uranium, which has a half-life of 4.5 billion years. Okay, so we use it to estimate the age of different things. So for example, in this case, uranium will be decayed to become lead-206. So by determining the amount of uranium and lead-206, I can determine the age of the rock. Okay, so the more I have already decayed to form 206 means the older I am based on the half-life. So maybe if half of the sample has decayed to form lead-206, it means that this substance has already been here for 4.5 billion years. Okay, and then now we move on to after the application, we move on to the hazards of radioactivity. So what is so dangerous about radioactivity is that they are all called ionizing radiation. They have the ability to knock out electrons from atoms, and therefore it can cause damage to healthy cells. But they can also be used in diagnosis and treatment of cancer, which is just now the application, but they also in the process kills healthy cells as well. And then because of its high ionizing effect, the energy carried can easily kill cells. Not only damage, kill cells, it can also cause mutation because of the ionizing effect and cancer. Okay, so how do we, that's why you can just read yourself about Fukushima nuclear power plants. Okay, so how can we reduce the harmful effects of radioactivity? So there are four main things that we could do. The first one is to reduce the exposure time. So we try not to stay in areas that has a high amount of radioactive substance for a long period of time. And then next one, we increase the distance between the radioactive source and any living tissues like a human being. So we try to, whenever we are handling radioactive substance, we don't use our hands, okay? We use long tongs or remote control device so that we minimize the direct contact with the radioactive source. And then shielding, okay? We know that radioactive sources are being absorbed by a few cm thick of lead. So we try to use materials that will absorb all this radiation. So like you wear lead-lined gloves or suit to protect your body so that it gets absorbed by the lead and it will not reach your body. And or you use thick concrete walls and lead-lined doors for rooms where ionizing radiation is used. Similarly, for storage, usually they are stored in containers, a few cm thick lead containers, so that the radioactive source is quite contained in the container. It doesn't penetrate out of the container. Okay, so in case if you are very unlucky, you come into contact with radioactive source, you try to limit the contamination by leaving the area quickly, removing the outer layer of your clothes, and wash all exposed body parts with soap and lukewarm water. Okay, and that's it. That's the end of the chapter.